This episode is brought to you by Hyperice, the leader in advanced warm-up and recovery technology. They have tons of innovative products, like Venom-heated wearables to help soothe sore back muscles, Normatec compression boots to speed up recovery and increase circulation, and Hypervolt massage guns to improve mobility. Loved by athletes like Naomi Osaka and Erling Haaland. Try them yourself. Get 10% off your order with the code MOVE at Hyperice.com.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Survivor 46 is here, and so is On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast, and we have a twist this season. The winner of Survivor 45, Dee Valladares, will be joining us every week.
We're going behind the scenes of the biggest moments, the how and the why things happen, and the strategy and analysis you can only get from someone like me, a Survivor winner.
Listen to On Fire, the official Survivor podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Stephen Krajcik of the Lotto Jumbo team as well, and Adam Yates of Orica Green Edge, and Anthony Turgis, who had a little bit of a tumble as he headed in towards Scarborough but stayed on his bike.
Great Britain have won their first medal. It was Adam Peaty in a world record time, breaking his own world record.
She punches the air and she crosses that blue finish line. The world champion of 12 months ago, who finished second here last time around, has won it.
The athlete's village is not a place for fighting. I've never heard that ever in Olympic and Paralympic history.
This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast, covering the games all the time rather than once every 4 years. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and coming up in this episode, I catch up with two Team GB boxers who both have a story to tell and both have something to prove.
Hello, my name's Charlie Davison, 54 kilo GB boxer. Really excited to have been chosen to go to the European Games. The first qualifiers before Paris Olympics.
Hello, my name is Delicious Ori. I'm a Team GB boxer and I'm super excited to be representing Team GB.
Their interviews in full before this week's European Games coming up.
We'll continue our countdown to Krakow 2023 and discuss the latest dire warnings about British basketball.
And they are dire, by the way. And of course, we'll round up the other Olympic and Paralympic news headlines in our News from the Games, including all the A's, athletics, archery, and as ever, you can let us know what you think. Get in touch anytime. I always say this, John does an amazing job on the socials at Anything But F on Twitter. Follow us there for all your Olympic and Paralympic and Anything But Footy news. Find us on Instagram and on Facebook, Anything But Footy. Give it a search, give us a follow, and check out our latest blogs and all things sport, audio and radio on our website, anythingbutfooty.com.
Now, Delicious Ore and Charlie Davidson are just two of the GB boxers off to Poland this week for the third instalment of the European Games. If you don't know what we're talking about, you need to download and follow the last two episodes. But effectively, it's a mini Olympics in Europe over 12 days in Krakow. And boxing in Tokyo was once again one of the standout sports for Team GB, and likewise for the home nations in the Commonwealth Games. We'll hear from gold medalist from Birmingham, Delicious, in a moment, and his story from Russia to representing Team GB. But first, mum of three, Charlie.
How much is Paris and the Olympics really on your radar, having had that taste of it in Tokyo in 2021?
Yeah, so since I went to Tokyo, qualified for Tokyo Olympics, didn't quite get to the sort of stage I wanted to get to, i.e. a medal. This is sort of my last chance, basically, my last sort of Olympics. So I'm really hungry for this, looking forward to qualifying and heading to Paris.
And how important are the European Games for you? You mentioned obviously qualification, but what kind of big step is this event for you?
Yeah, so I went to a Europeans before, but this is different. This is my first European Games. It's a major, a very, very tough major as well. You've got the best girls from the countries all competing, obviously, to qualify for Paris. So it's going to be tough. But it's really important. I think that experience there alone before you head off to the Olympics is the first sort of stepping stone. You've got to qualify. You've got to beat these girls to qualify, and then you can compete against the other ones that have qualified at the Olympics.
And how's the family?
Really well. Kids were quite shocked that I had to come to camp so soon after a week in Italy. We had a day or so at home. But that obviously flew by, and they were asking why I was going so soon. But they understand the nature of what I do, the hard work I have to put in, and the sacrifices I have to make to sort of be at this top level. And they're behind me, pushing me. They give me that drive. So I'm in a good place going into these European Games.
So tell us a little bit about the kids, how many, how old they are, and how much they understand sort of what mum does for her job.
Yeah, so I've got 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. My eldest son is 11, my daughter's 9, she's the middle child, and my youngest is 7. I think at first it was sort of hard for them to get used to, mum being away, dad being at home. We sort of like switched roles, but they've now sort of come to terms with it. They enjoy being at home with dad, and then they get to enjoy me when I come home. But like I say, they're my drive. They are what push me. They do help me. Like when I have bad days, I get to go home and see the children. So I'm grateful being able to do both, as being a parent as well as doing the sport that I love.
Because we've seen lots of great athletes come back and win medals after having children, haven't we? With Jessica Ennis-Hill, of course, with Laura Trott, Laura Kenny. And I guess for you, you must feel you've got a second chance at this sport, having had to go away and have the family.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll forever be grateful for Team GB supporting me how they have. They've really helped me with whether that's with like mindset, performance, anything I need. They've always been there to help. And you do get the doubters that think, oh, can she do it? She's got 3 children, not just 1, but 3 children. Can she go back to that top level? And you question yourself as well at the beginning. I questioned myself, and I thought, I've got to get this balance right to make myself happy, to fulfill my full potential. Not to waste any time. But I feel that, like I say, that balance, if it's sort of, you got the right balance, anything's possible. And I'm proving that. And like you just said yourself, there's been other mums out there that have come back to the sport after having children and won medals at majors. So it can happen.
Did you ever think about stepping off the programme after Tokyo and giving up, or was there always that drive? You saw the record haul.
Yeah, so I think if I would have won a medal at Tokyo, that maybe would have sort of concreted it. But because I know that I didn't quite reach my full potential, I think it's a waste if I was then to say, oh, do you know what, I'm not doing it anymore, sort of thing, where I was in a good position still, even though I didn't win a medal. It was just the lack of experience, little tweaks here and there that I've now sort of put right. Yeah, I believe no one see my full potential, not at all. And more so at this weight, I'm able to show people my abilities and what I can do. And there's more to show. They just got a little glimpse of what I could do then. And now I can showcase my skills to the bigger people.
So just finally then, how are you feeling ahead of the European Games in Krakow? Body shape and mind, everything okay?
Everything's going to plan really well. We've just, like I say, come back from Italy, really good sparring out there. We've done some really good tough runs. We've done all the hard work. We literally can just put it into play now, and I want to get out there, get that draw done, get that first bout out of the way, and then just get into the tournament. That's that feel of that anticipation is the worst part. And when you're into the tournament, it just flows. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Because I think what a lot of people don't understand about boxing at events like this is to be there is a huge achievement. And whilst I totally accept you want to be there and be on the podium, there's no passengers in a European Games or an Olympic boxing tournament, is there?
There's no added extras. You have to get there, you have to do your thing and get a medal, qualify, and then head to Paris.
And a chance to put that Team GB kit back on must be getting familiar for you now.
Oh, that's it. Feels like home.
Well, lovely to catch up. Lovely to speak to you, and all the very best in Poland.
It's nice to speak to you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hello, my name is Delicious Ori. I'm a Team GB boxer, and I'm super excited to be representing Team GB in the European Games.
Delicious, last time I spoke to you, we were on a balcony in the centre of Birmingham. You'd just become the Commonwealth Games champion, and everyone wanted a selfie with you because they said, when this guy's heavyweight champion of the world, that'll be really good on the gram. But before you get to that point, you want to win a European Games gold and an Olympic gold, don't you?
Yeah, it's all part of the process. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do and what I need to do. It's all been part of the plan since starting boxing at 18 years old. This is it now. I'm on Team GB to get into the Olympics and to be an Olympian, and I need to qualify in order to do that. So yeah, I can't wait. Exciting times.
You said obviously you started at 18. That's relatively late, isn't it, to get into your game?
Yeah, 18 years old. I actually had my first bout at 19, so it was late 18. But you know what? One thing that I realized as I compete and I progressed as a boxer and developed my skills is inspiration is such a powerful thing. And at the time being 18 years old, I didn't understand it. I just felt it. And it was just in getting that inspiration, that self-belief. Look, as soon as you get that self-belief in you, that's it. That you can achieve anything. At the time, I didn't know what it was until after a few years when I look back and think, wow, this is inspiration. That's what it is. Honestly, I can't preach enough how important inspiring the next generation of young adults is. So that's one of my goals and one of the things that I'm setting out to do, which is, as much as I want to win a gold medal at the Olympics, become heavyweight champion of the world, the next thing is to inspire, make people believe that it's very much possible.
So what does it mean to you to have Team GB on your shirt today and be representing Great Britain, a country that you came to when you were young?
Man, honestly, I can't put it into words. It's going to give me an opportunity to show Team GB, show the world, but also show Team GB and show Great Britain that I am very, very grateful for the opportunity that I have. To be in the position that I'm in, honestly, I can't put it into words. I am lucky. As much as I've worked very hard for in the position I'm in now, I am very lucky and very fortunate. And for me, it's a way to saying thank you to Team GB, thank you to Great Britain for being such an amazing nation. And I really do mean it. It's a great place. And coming from Russia to Russian mother and Nigerian father, I was born in Russia, and I lived there for 7 years before coming down to England. It was a big change for me at the time. A different language, different school system. But I felt like I really fitted in here in the UK, seeing a diverse culture, seeing a lot more acceptance, and I really felt like this was home. And over the years, that proved it to myself, and now I'm able to actually put the shirt on and actually represent Team GB and be the number one guy to bring back the medals for the country and for the nation. So. I feel like this is like what I'm destined to do. Do you know what I mean? Like it really does feel like it's since I've come here at 7 years old. So yeah, I really cannot wait, and it's an exciting time for me. It's just this is more than just a medal. This is something that I'll look back and say, like, and think to myself, like I was able to represent a country that's given me a lot of opportunity and put me in the position I am today. So it's big. It's a big thing.
And bigger than all of us, of course, is the situation, with Russia and Ukraine at the moment. You're a bright guy. You're a thoughtful guy. Do you have any thoughts about what is happening in the wider world?
Oh man, what's going on there is just horrendous. I think anything to do with, anything to do with war is horrible. It's a catastrophe for the locals, just the regular people living there on both sides. It really isn't fair on them, because of a decision of a few guys at the top. But like you said, this politics is a lot bigger than boxing. It's a lot bigger than this. It's a shame, but it's just how the world works, unfortunately. All we can do is just focus on ourselves and develop ourselves. It's affected us here at Team GB a little bit, not being able to go out and compete in certain tournaments and not being able to get as much more bouts in. But all I can do really is just get my head down and focus on myself. And I wouldn't say ignore what's going on, because that's the wrong way of putting it. We have to sort of acknowledge what's going on, but it's not letting it affect us and what we do, and making sure that we're still progressing day by day, because the wrong actions of a few shouldn't impact us as a nation, as a team, to achieving the things that we need to achieve. So that's the mindset I'm going into this with.
And one of the knock-on effects, I guess, is this growth now of world boxing ahead of the IBA, and GB boxing has aligned itself with world boxing. Do you, as boxers, the cohort, talk about that? Is that in your thoughts at all, about who's going to organise this Olympic competition, for argument's sake, whether boxing will even be there in LA.
Yeah. From a practical standpoint, in terms of actually what we, in terms of the actual competitions, actually tournaments, we've got to talk about it because we need to know how we're qualifying, what we're actually going to do in order to get into the Olympics, if the Olympics even on the next time in 2024 Paris for the boxing. Yeah, and of course it is. So from that aspect, we do talk about it, but as I think as a sport, we don't get involved too much in the politics because it's a mess. It really is a mess, and it's something that I don't really want to get involved in. We have certainty for the amateur boxing happening in 2024, but hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well for the next Olympics in LA. Because look, amateur boxing is a big thing. It's a vital thing for the younger generation and the kids here in the UK. Look, I walked in the gym for the first time at 18, 19, never been to an amateur club before, and I've really seen a massive impact on what it does to the young adults and children. Honestly, it can change your life. It's just being able to get into a gym and having a coach, someone to talk to. Maybe they might not even have that in their house, so or in their peers, and have a something in common and just work hard towards something. That's important, and I feel like amateur boxing is a huge vessel for that.
So whatever happens, whoever's running it, your message is we need to keep boxing on the programme at the Olympic Games. Very important
that the funding is still there. Very important that there is something that these young kids can push towards and strive towards. Because look, for some kids, if it's not for boxing, they'll end up somewhere that none of us want them to be in, and it is as simple as that. It's literally either boxing or the wrong path for some people.
Well, all the very best to you at the European Games with Team GB. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Really great to hear both Charlie Davidson and Delicious Ore talking to Michael. I thought Delicious spoke incredibly well about what was going on in Russia and Ukraine and described it as horrendous. I also thought his description of the IBA and the fact that the Olympics might not have boxing in LA, and he described it as a mess, was probably the best description I've heard for a long time. And the really important point that gyms are a safe place and somewhere to go for young boys, girls who might need someone to talk to. I thought was a really good point, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously enjoyed chatting to both of them. Charlie's an interesting story, having, been a very good level boxer, went away, had a family, came back, qualified for Tokyo against all the odds, didn't win a medal out there in what was a record-breaking team, but then decided, had the opportunity to, probably like a lot of that team, turn professional, but decided that she had, as I put it to her, unfinished business with the Olympics, and she wanted to go again, and that's a big commitment. It was a 3-year commitment, not the full 4 years, but when you're a mum and juggling family life and everything else, to say, I'm going to put a lot of my life on hold because I've still got that ambition for that Olympic medal. And yeah, Delicious, or DJ as he's known, love chatting to the guy always, and I said it to him there. He's a bright, intelligent man. He's thoughtful. He's got opinions on things, and we discussed there two huge news stories. I mean, in the world of sport, the future for amateur boxing and the Olympics is a big deal. Of course, we know a much bigger deal is what's gone on in the world over the past year and a half. And as someone that was born in Moscow and has, a parent from Russia, but obviously has been in this country for a long time, just to get Delicious's perspective, if you like, on what has happened. And, and I think that'll be a conversation that develops with Delicious as well. What will happen if he's, in a ring at some point, facing a boxer who, is an independent athlete, but as we and and everyone listening knows, is an athlete from Russia. What is the situation there? And I think, as he said at the end, he's there to do his job. He has to focus on doing that job. And I think he's very mindful of what is going on in the world, and he has an opinion, and he wants to speak about that. But he wants to win a medal at the European Games, and that has got to be his focus. And we all need sometimes to do that in life, don't we? Which is, just to compartmentalize things. Yeah. And, your job is your job, and your views, your opinions on what is happening in the world is maybe a separate part of your life. But yeah, great to chat to both.
And we wish Charlie all the best as well, fighting at a new weight, as she was explaining there as well, and feeling a lot better about it than she did in Tokyo.
So those two are just part of the 13-strong boxing team looking for Paris qualification next year. One of them is Reece Lynch, named to watch out for. He's been named as one of the 10 newbies at the European Games. He became the first Scottish boxer to win a World Championship medal. It was a bronze. He backed that up with the Commonwealth Games gold. More on him and the others to watch. Just head to the website, teamgb.com.
And stay with us on Anything But Footy. We'll keep you up to date with the European Games on socials over the next week or so, and listen out next week for a special podcast on the Brits at the Europeans. We can't wait for that. This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast. Stay with us. We'll look at the latest bad news for British basketball and round up our news from the games you may have missed.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This is Anything But Footy, and British basketball, or the arching organisation GB Basketball. I mean, where do we go from here? We talked last week, or last episode of the podcast, about how golfers were blindsided by the Saudi takeover deal with the PGA Tour. Well, this was like an earthquake, a letter from Chairman Chris Grant in an open letter to all basketball followers in the UK in the past week. Also, the sports administrators like UK Sport, who may read it, may be listening to this. And basically what he said is he'll quit if things don't change quickly and better. And it was only in September last year that he was appointed and accepted, as he put it, the 2-day-a-month role. Now, let me quote a little bit from the letter. It's been much closer to 7 days per week and a more CEO role than the volunteer position that was advertised. I've carried on to this point despite the negative personal impact because GB basketball is massively important. We're making real progress. We could easily slip back into another cycle of underachievement. Right now, as well as pulling out all the stops to support our teams, we should be preparing our submission for the run-up to the 2028 Olympics. We're doing our best, but the position we are in is untenable and unsustainable. I'll decide over the coming weeks whether I can stay to see this through. Now, Michael, he says there's only a certain amount an organisation can do with no full-time employees. Sponsors and partners tell him it's a niche sport, and he's calling on more funding. And he's had backing from that from the former BBF chair, Nick Humby, and the former CEO, Lisa Wainwright, as well, both echoing his statements, calling for the sport to receive more funding. But here's the nub. We've all been saying this for so long, but ultimately it does need more funding. Basketball England has been working. It's successful in using some of the legacy from the Birmingham Games, the 3x3 success. But if there's nothing to take it on from there, what's the point? And by the way, if you've read one of our blogs on Anything But Footy, you'll know that this is the second most played sport in this country. The second.
You know what? I think there's more to this for me than just British basketball at an Olympic and elite level. And I've said this on more than one occasion about a number of sports, basketball being one of them, volleyball, another, handball. Missed opportunity after 2012. Having got a British programme up and running, not to have taken that on for me was criminal. But there is a pot of cash that isn't limitless. It's definitely not limitless at the moment, and decisions were made, and those decisions were made at the time to exclude sports like basketball. But think back to that interview that we just heard there with Delicious Ori and what he was saying about young boxers, young boys, young girls going into gyms and it being a safe space.
Yeah.
Think back to what he was saying there. Now, he was not saying there that all those young boys and young girls are going to go and, emulate him and win a medal at the Commonwealth Games or go to an Olympic Games, which might happen for him. He was just saying that those gyms and that grassroots and that mass participation element was so important. And that is what's so important for basketball. As you said there, the second most played sport in the country, the basketball court should be a safe space for those people. The basketball clubs should be a safe space for those people that want to go and play basketball. Brilliant that GB's women are on the verge for qualifying potentially for the next Olympics. That would be a fantastic achievement. And, we should back that and hopefully with the right investment and the right programme, we can go on and improve on that and make them more of a contender perhaps for 2028. But for me, it's also about all those people that just want to play the game, whether that's for fun, whether that's for the sake of their mental health, whether that's the sake for their physical health, whether that's just the one opportunity a week that they get out and they can go and play on a court. So we need those courts, we need that structure, we need those clubs, and we need obviously to, when we look at investment in sport and we look at investment in well-being and fitness and health, we need to bring basketball in because clearly it's so hugely popular.
And I thought Chris Grant was the right person appointed to the position, but he's obviously worked incredibly hard for the last 6 months and it's still not making any difference. It's too complicated, isn't it, Michael? We've talked about this so many times on the podcast in our Great British Bosses series. The way that the structure is worked in this country. You've got England, Scotland, Wales, and sometimes Northern Ireland. Then you have GB basketball, which oversees or the elite side of it. But it's all too complicated. And what it needs to do is they all need to come together and sit down and work out, right, we've got this amount of cash, what are we going to do with it and how are we going to do it and how are we going to have those courts? Because ultimately, the other weekend I was in Southend, for example, visiting grandparents. We went to the basketball court in the local park and there were 6 hoops there and every single hoop was being played by young kids, and my son wanted to play basketball as well. Unfortunately, we'd taken the basketball with us, as well as a football, as well as a tennis racket. But it was interesting that all those 6 hoops were being played, and there is a hoop in every park. All you need is a ball. But I tell you what you really need is you need the will to make it change and make it happen. And at the moment, that is not happening.
This is Anything But Footy. On to our news from the Games. Not long to go now until the London Diamond League taking place in the Olympic Stadium, the London Stadium in the Olympic Park, Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. The US's Sha'Carri Richardson, the fastest woman in the world this year, is the latest addition to an incredible 100 metres field at the London Athletics Meet, which is being held on Sunday, the 23rd of July. Now, she will join Sharika Jackson and Dina Asher-Smith on the starting line in London. 2 of our favourite athletes who are supposed to do battle on the streets of London earlier this year will now meet on the track instead. I hope I've not got the job of interviewing both of them. I was planning on being home that night, not the following Wednesday. London Marathon winner and double Olympic champion Sifan Hassan, who does like to chat, will meet Commonwealth Games champion Ailish McColgan, who also likes to chat in an intriguing women's 5,000 metres. I think talking is probably the second best thing both of them do after running. Great Britain and Northern Ireland's Olympic bronze medalist Holly Bradshaw will also take on Olympic and world pole vault champion Katie Moon of the US. And another person who I've always enjoyed interviewing, world silver medalist Sandy Morris. And I just want to say quickly, Sandy Morris from the US, she was an adopted athlete for the 2017 World Athletics Championships, which you recall, of course, were held in London. And I was covering those games, as you know, for Talk Sport, for radio. And we decided to adopt an athlete for the duration of the games and speak to them regularly. And Sandy was our adopted athlete because the US team were training at the University of Birmingham before coming down to London. And we spoke to her there and we said, look, can we catch up with you regular intervals during the games? So, yeah, it was fantastic to have a chat with her after she won her medal in London. And I've always followed her career ever since as our adopted athlete from 2017. And for Ailish and Sifan, I love interviewing you. I love talking to you both if you're listening. And I will revel in the opportunity to speak to you at the Diamond League if that opportunity arises.
Exactly, and we wish Holly Bradshaw all the best as well and hope that her injuries are behind her as well. We've seen her struggle in the last year or so. Now, 9 of Britain's best para-archers have been named to compete at the World Championships and European Championships this summer. The Czech Republic is staging the Worlds in July, with quota places up for grabs for the Paris Paralympics. The Europeans are then in August. Paralympic champions Phoebe Patterson-Pine and Jessica Stretton are leading the team. Programme manager Rachel Bailey says congratulations to all, and we're now focused on the challenge ahead.
Now, you know I'm a big fan of the Commonwealth Games, despite the fact I accept there are some challenges ahead of us about the staging of the Games. You know I've been to 4, including Gold Coast.
Have you mentioned it? Yeah, I think you mentioned it.
The Commonwealth Games Federation has launched Commonwealth United, which is its brand new strategic plan from this year until 2034. So a 10-11 year plan. At its heart is that bold new vision. As I said, there are some challenges for future Commonwealth Games hosting. So the bold new vision, our Commonwealth united through sport. So this vision has confirmed they will be looking for more multi-country games opportunities, new regions, following the example of Victoria in Australia in 2026. Now, just quickly on this,
go on.
I would have said to you that the future of the Commonwealth Games is multi-country, new regions, host it across a big area. And Victoria stepped in and is doing that in 2026. Having them been in the centre of Birmingham in 2022 and been there for the duration of that and seen how that city just buzzed, I hope that still there will be opportunities for cities like Birmingham. And I do accept that those games were spread a bit further afield. Cycling in London, for example, things in Coventry like the Rugby Sevens. But the hub of it seemed very much in the city centre. And I do hope that city councils in this country, whether it's Liverpool going again or Leeds Bradford bid or another Glasgow Edinburgh bid or Cardiff. I mean, we talked about Cardiff, didn't we, back in 2014, that Wales should go for it. I do hope that we do still have some events, some Commonwealth Games hosts in the future that are focused around the one city, just because it was so amazing for Birmingham. But I also accept that there are not enough of those cities to go round. So that is why we're having to do it slightly differently in Victoria. But well done, I would say, to the CGF for being open to the fact that the games are not always going to follow the same blueprint. And I should just mention as well, launching ahead of the Trinidad and Tobago 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games, there is also a renewed focus on youth engaging with diverse young fans on an ongoing basis. And that's something, again, we saw, didn't we, right in the heart of Birmingham at Smithfield with the 3x3 basketball and the beach volleyball there, that focus on youth and just a brilliant staging of those two sports.
Yeah, we've seen countries hosting other sporting events together. And I think if the Commonwealth can get, say, for example, you don't want too many nations. You don't want it so separated, as you rightly say, because you want to feel like it's one event. But if you could, say, have half of the events in one city, or one region, or one country, maybe even in Trinidad and Tobago, and then you have something in another city, another part of the world, it could effectively you could have a 24-hour games. Couldn't you? Because you could have some from a viewing point of view, you could watch sport for 24 hours a day. So I think it is something that they're right to be looking at. But you're absolutely right as well that it can't be, well, here's one event here and one event here and one event on another continent, because then it is individual championships and it's not a Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, and I think an imaginative staging. I mean, if you could imagine that, India could stage Commonwealth Games cricket for argument's sake, while the cycling takes place in Australia and the track and field takes place in London, where we know that huge crowds will come out. And if you stage it in the right way and you get the timings right, you're right. You could literally watch the Commonwealth Games around the clock, couldn't you? You could always have a sport on at some place in some country, in some city, all part of the games taking place at any one time across the 10, 11 days of competition.
But I agree with you as well. You do want some kind of community feel as well, like you've all come together.
Yeah, I just think maybe there's options, whether it's an alternate or it's 1 in 3, whatever it is, and this will be led by people coming forward with their views and their ideas on staging the games. What I wouldn't want to say is that the Commonwealth Games will no longer be hosted, or it will no longer be offered, if you like, 2 cities to host in the same way that Glasgow did and Birmingham did, and that created such that unique atmosphere that is always special around games time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a big couple of weeks to come for anything but footy and sport in this country. We've got the European Games starting on Wednesday, some events in Poland on Tuesday as well to look out for. It's Olympic Day on Friday, June 23rd. 400 days to go this week to Paris 2024. Wimbledon begins on July 3rd, and the British Athletics Championships and Trials for the Worlds, which take place in Budapest later in the summer, are taking place in Manchester in July 8th or 9th. We cannot wait.
Throw in the fact you've got some World Series Championship triathlon taking place in Sunderland in July as well. You've got the National Road Race Cycling Championships taking place in Redcar and Cleveland, and just down the road from me as well, they've got events on Croft Circuit in North Yorkshire, County Durham border. Yeah, we've got a terrific few weeks of sport. We'll have it all covered for you right here. So do check out our sporting calendar and all our latest blogs on the website as well, anythingbutfooty.com. And as always, get in touch anytime. Find us on Twitter at anythingbutf, or find us on Instagram and Facebook at anythingbutfooty.
Now, as Michael was saying earlier, GB Boxing and its 13 fighters are preparing for European Games, knowing their sport, is on an Olympic knife edge. We heard from DJ about how he is welcomed into the boxing gym and feels that sport has a role to play in keeping our youngsters safe. Now, GB Boxing, for many years, has now set the standard of British sport, Olympic success and inspiration. Now, wouldn't it be good if we could have that happening with basketball, the second most played sport in the country that we mentioned earlier? Role models, success, media coverage, and then more importantly, sponsorship and maybe some funding. We've been saying it in our blogs, on our pods. There is much more out there than football. This is literally anything but footy.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.